is called to order at 6:15. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by our attorney, Sean Lask. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call.
Vice Chairperson El-Shanable,
Present.
Commissioner Ortiz,
Present.
Commissioner Caraveo is expected late. He's late, but he's here. 6:15. And Commissioner Richard.
Present.
Thank you. Oral communications. This is the time for the public to address the Planning Commission on items not on the public hearing portion of the agenda. After obtaining permission to proceed by the presiding officer, speakers should first state their full name and address for the record, although it's not required. The speakers shall limit their address to 3 minutes. Any public comments that are discriminatory, defamatory, or otherwise not protected by speech will not be considered, consented to, or otherwise adopted by the Planning Commission in its deliberations or findings. As a courtesy to others, please silence your cell phones and other electronic devices. The Planning Commission strives to treat all participants with civility, and we ask that you do the same. All the marks will be kept to 3 minutes, and seeing that we have a full house today, we will adhere to the 3 minutes. So please keep that in mind when you speak. Seeing that no one else is here to speak about items not on the agenda, I will close oral communications. Recess or Airport Zoning Commission, Planning Commission consent calendar.
There are no items.
Continued public hearings.
There are none. Well, actually, there is one, but we've moved it to the end of the agenda.
Okay. New public hearings. Conditional Use Permit 2021 CU09 and Design Review 2021 DR06. Now is the time and place to open the public hearing to consider Conditional Use Permit 2021 CU09 and Design Review 2021 DR06. Interim Planning Director McLean will present the staff report.
Thank you. This is an application for a new hotel, 5-story hotel at 5321 West 120th Street. This is right up against the freeway north of the airport and north of the Dominguez Channel. There's a vicinity map, and this is the site plan. The site plan has the hotel in the middle of the property against the Dominguez Channel and parking to the east and the west. So that's all we need to say. This is the floor plan. Standard hotel, one hallway down the middle and rooms on each side. There is also an outdoor pool, a fitness center, guest laundry facilities, breakfast service area, and a large guest lobby area. These are the elevations, how it's proposed to look. And the colors that have been chosen for this project are dark gray and orange. It's sort of muted orange, white, and then some fiber cement ship slab siding, which is dark brown. So again, you can see all of that on this diagram. The landscaping plans are of the parking area, which is what's required per code. You can see that they have little islands, and the unusable corners are also landscaped. The plant materials are depicted at the bottom of the screen. So that's basically the hotel in a nutshell. If anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them, but otherwise we're going to be recommending that the Planning Commission take the actions that follow. We recommend that, well, it's not on here, but open the public hearing, take testimony from the public, and then our recommendation is to adopt the resolution 2301, which approves the conditional use permit for the hotel, and then 2302, which would approve the design review for this hotel. So again, if there's any questions, I'm open to answer them now.
Does the Planning Commission have any questions for staff?
Through the chair, yes. So I noticed in the elevations that you presented, the legend for the materials, it was different than what was in our packet. In our packet, the orange color was identified as fiber cement,
Mhm.
and in this one, and in the staff report, it shows the orange being stucco.
Okay, in that case, if this is to be approved tonight, I would recommend that you specify which of those options you are approving.
One more question. The hotel, as it stands now, the project, it does require that the bridge be approved, right, over the Dominguez Channel?
Yeah, there's access to this property from the north, under the freeway, from residential streets in Inglewood. Those are not to be used for this project. That should be sealed off, and so the access can only be achieved by building a bridge over the Dominguez Channel off of 120th Street. Yeah, and the applicant, the applicant has, I'm trying to remember if it's 2 or 3 years to make that happen. He's been working with the county who owns the channel for already several years to make this happen, but they move very slow compared to us.
Okay, thank you.
I had some questions.
Sure.
Was the city of Inglewood notified?
Yes.
Okay. And then was LACSD notified?
Help me out, CSD is.
These are my notes from last time, so I'm trying to remember too. I think that was with the water channel.
Oh, the channel, yeah, of course.
Okay. And then have they submitted to them yet for their?
You know, I don't know, because I know that this had been here before, and they were discussing. I don't think it was approved, but they were discussing this bridge. So I know that he's been working with them for a number of years. So my assumption is, yeah, they've got, plans for the bridge.
Okay. I'll probably bring it up for the applicant as well later
Okay.
on. And then does the height comply with the airport flight path requirements?
Yes, it does. But one of the conditions is the FAA approval will still be required.
Okay. That's all of my questions for now.
Through the chair. First, a procedural question. Will we be able to ask questions of staff after public comment is made
Yes.
as well? Okay. If that's the case, then actually I'm going to reserve my questions until after the part.
Is the applicant present, and do they wish to speak?
Hi, my name is Jimmy Arias. I'm here representing the applicants. I just came here to answer any questions you have concerning the design.
Is there anyone who wishes to address? Actually, before that, should we open the door if anyone has a question for the applicant? Okay. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to address the commission on this issue? And please make sure to limit your address to 3 minutes. You can line up even if you didn't give a paper.
Good evening, honorable commissioners. My name is Jonah Breslau. I'm here on behalf of Unite Here Local 11, and we have 32,000 members who work in food service at the airport and in hotels. And we have 700 members who live right here in Hawthorne, which is a very high concentration of our membership who work, in this area. So I'm here to urge you to hold off on the development of this hotel project until it has received the proper environmental analysis. As I said, we have over 700 members who live in this city and who are experiencing the environmental crises that are particularly impacting folks, working people who live right here in Hawthorne, whether that's, you know, climate change or air pollution more broadly, and even noise pollution, which also has tremendous public health impacts. And so we are concerned about the noise and air policy, air quality impacts of these projects in particular, which we believe have not received the proper analysis. This is a city that, you know, is one of the most air quality impacted in the whole state. And that is also, you know, with both LAX and the Hawthorne Airport and many freeways. This project is right next to a freeway, also a place where there is a tremendous amount of noise pollution. And so we are concerned that this project could exacerbate those issues, and that it deserves, and our members deserve, the same kind of environmental analysis of those kinds of impacts that are required under the law. And so, you know, you will hear from our members about why we're concerned about these things in more detail, you know, from the folks who are here today. But we really urge you to make sure that this project does receive the environmental analysis pursuant to the law, you know, before moving forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Evening, Honorable Planning Commissioners. My name is Jordan Sisson. I'm a land use CEQA attorney representing Local 11. You heard from my colleagues, who's obviously very concerned about this project. I first want to say I understand the difficulties cities have when they think about economic development and trying to encourage good development in their cities that creates revenue. I appreciate that, but that doesn't mean that you can forget about process. And CEQA is about process. It improves projects and mitigates. That, unfortunately, is not what's happening here. They're going to do a Cat X, a categorical exemption. The categorical exemption is very clear. You can't have any mitigation. You can't have any impacts to air quality, traffic. Has to be consistent with land use plans and applicable zoning. And you can't use mitigation. That's what a Cat X is for. Here, the evidence doesn't show that. We submitted a letter January 18th. There's been no response to that. This is what the staff report says. There'll be no impacts. That one sentence. Unfortunately, that's not enough for the applicant. That's not substantial evidence. In our remaining time, I just want to highlight 6 points of just why we are so concerned. Again, the air quality. There is no air quality study. Keep in mind that similar projects here that have done similar level of analysis and of a similar project has tons of construction equipment, heavy-duty equipment. This includes 12 to 24 months of potentially air compressors, concrete pumps, forklifts, welders, lifts, backhoes, loaders, rollers, other diesel-fueled equipment. These have emissions. No study has been provided to show that those air quality impacts are insignificant. You can't have also noise impacts. Here, these are going to make noise. These could go up to 95 dBA, even higher, individually, but there's no noise analysis. There's no noise analysis about individual equipment or the cumulative impact when you have multiple pieces of equipment operating at the same time, and or what does that sound like when you have the freeway and the airport? You've got residents complaining in the record, independent of our members, who are concerned about this. Again, no noise study. The next thing I want to, and additionally, here, the condition of approval admits they're using a 6-foot fence to mitigate that noise impact. Now, that might be okay for an M&D, but not a Cat X. That's very important. On the traffic, which is VMT, there's multiple issues with this, but again, I just want to highlight one point. Their study admits a VMT impact. And what do? They use mitigation. That in of itself makes this project inapplicable for a Cat X. Again, this is basic process. And just to finish up on this last point, which is also relevant to the hotel, this is not consistent, seems inconsistent with the zoning codes, which require under Hawthorne's codes to provide a feasibility study for hotels. I'll be able to explain that in the next public hearing. I thank you so much for your time and happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So I'm going to provide translation for some of our members.
Hola, mi nombre es Salvador Jiménez. Trabajo como buzzer en el Westcliff de Manhattan Beach.
So his name is Salvador Jimenez, and he works as a busser in the West Drift in Manhattan Beach.
Yo vivo en Hatton desde hace 22 años y estoy muy preocupado por los posibles impactos.
So he's lived in Hawthorne for 22 years, and he's very concerned about the possible impacts
En la calidad de aire de este proyecto, en la calle 120.
So he's very concerned about, in particular, the air quality impacts of this project on 120th.
El personal dice que no tendrá impactos significativos en la calidad del aire.
So the staff has said that this project will not have significant impacts on the air quality.
Pero estos dos proyectos hoteleros se encuentran en partes de la ciudad que tiene una de las cargas más contaminadas más altas de California.
So these, both of the projects are in parts of the city that have some of the highest pollution burden in the whole state of California.
No es correcto ignorar los impactos de este proyecto. Rechace este hotel a menos y hasta que esté sujeto a la revisión ambiental adecuada.
So please reject this hotel unless and until it's received the proper environmental review. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Douglas Marmol, M-A-R-M-O-L. My address is 12321 Ramona Avenue, Hawthorne, California, 90250. And I'm a member of United Local 11. Housing gets more and more expensive every day, but that generally doesn't stop cities from doing the proper environmental review of housing projects. In contrast, we see so many cities fail to do the proper environmental review of a hotel project. It is important that the city analyze all of the environmental impacts on this project. Please do not allow the hotel on El Segundo without a through environmental review. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Buenas noches, comisionados. Mi nombre es Jamie Morales y vivo en Hawthorne hace 16 años.
So, good evening to the commissioners. Her name is Jamie Morales, and she's lived in Hawthorne for how many? 16 years.
Trabajo como recamarera en el Hotel Fairfield El Segundo. Conozco a demasiados familiares y amigos que sufren de asma.
So she works at the Fairfield as a housekeeper, and she knows too many, family members and friends who suffer from the effects of asthma.
Según la Asociación Estadounidense del Pulmón, el área metropolitana de Los Ángeles es la peor del país en cuanto a ozono y se encuentra entre las 5 principales en cuanto a contaminación por partículas durante todo el año.
So, according to the American Lung Association, the LA metropolitan area is the worst in the country when it comes to ozone, and in the top 5 when it comes to particulate pollution.
2 hoteles con cientos de habitaciones tendrán un impacto en la contaminación del aire.
2 hotels with hundreds of hotel rooms are going to have an impact on air pollution.
Pero no hay un análisis de los impactos en la calidad del aire de estos 2 proyectos en el informe del personal.
But there's not an analysis of the impacts of these 2 projects on air quality in the staff report.
Rechace este hotel propuesto en la calle 120 a menos que la ciudad estudie y aborde cualquier impacto en la calidad del aire. Gracias.
Gracias. So please reject this project on 120th Street unless the city studies and addresses all the impacts of these projects on air quality. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ruben Sanchez, president of the North Hawthorne Community Association. As you know, we live in that area of North Hawthorne. I'll try to get to the point. in regards of this developing, as you know, this has always been brought up in the past, and I'm surprised it's even here again because the main factor was the emergency services was not able to cross going because of the canal. It's very impossible for the emergency service. The permits were not accepted because of emergency service. So for this to be brought back, it's very iffy. You know, it's very concerning as well. I think Mr. McLean was here back then as well. No, you weren't. It was somebody else. Okay. So, anyways, so now saying that, that's why they're talking about bridges. With the bridge, all it's going to do is take away one of the 2 lanes that we already have on 120th, which is, you know, somebody experienced right here, the traffic as it is right now is horrible in the evenings and in the mornings. This will create more chaos in the mornings, more parking, problems, especially on 120th. And some of you that live close by understand that very much. Now, if they're willing to, if the if the airport is willing to donate some of the land so we can widen up the streets, then maybe that's another conversation that we should be having, right? But I doubt that, and for the same reason they're talking about air quality, and I understand, I'm all for air quality, but a lot of the people that are here don't understand that the airport donates a lot to these council members and to these politicians. So don't expect any favors when it comes to air quality. They don't care about it. We're in Hawthorne now. You know, this is something that we've been talking about throughout the years when it comes to campaigning, and this is what's going on. Right now that we're facing, as you all know, that they're trying to remove all these commissioners. These council members are trying to remove commissioners. They're not really want to remove everyone. They want to get rid of you guys because we have veteran people here that know what we're doing, and we have other individuals that came in and understand what's going on. You guys have been doing a pretty good job. You know, I know we've kind of like seen the not eye to eye on certain things, but at the end, I know you guys mean well when it comes to some projects. As you know, we came here because of the Crenshaw projects. Remember when that occurred? Look what happened now. The thing is belly up. They already sold it. You know, who pushed that? Miss Angie English. Okay? Who's the person pushing right now to remove commissioners? Miss Angie English. Okay? Remember that name. If you guys really want to talk about and talk to somebody, talk to Miss Angie English. Okay? Because this is the reason. You guys think you guys are going to deal with this group later on? They're not. They're going to remove this group. You know, we know this. We've been here long enough. We know how this plays out. The airport, they don't care about the quality of air over there. They're going to be giving out big donations. And what's going to happen is that for some reason we're back here with the same issues, but they forgot again to talk about the emergency services that are not capable. They're not going to get the permits, and it's going to be impossible to get there. And it's going to create the chaos and the traffic on 120th. Once again, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you, sir.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Blanca García. Tengo trabajando 6 años para el Hotel Friendly y tengo 23 años viviendo en la ciudad de Hatton en la 118 Street.
Okay, so her name is Blanca Garcia. And she's been working for 6 years in the Fairfield Hotel, and she's lived, ¿cuántos años?
23 años.
23 años, 23 years in Hawthorne.
118 Street.
On 118th Street.
Y estoy aquí apoyando a mi sindicato. También me opongo a estos 2 proyectos de hoteleros sin un análisis.
So she's here, you know, with her union, Unite Here Local 11, and she's opposed as well to these 2 hotels without an analysis.
Adecuado de sus impactos ambientales.
Without an adequate environmental analysis.
Parece que no hay escasez de hoteles en esta área.
It seems like there is not a shortage of hotels in this area.
Parece aproximadamente otros 120 hoteles.
So it says there's almost 20 hoteles, no? So there's like almost 20 hotels in this area.
Y alojamientos para pasar la noche dentro de una milla.
And other lodgings to stay the night within a mile of this site.
No hay crisis hotelera y agregar más hoteles.
There's not a hotel crisis, and to add more hotels.
Está bien en esta área que ya está bien servida por hoteles.
Yeah, and to add more hotels in this area that's already well served by hotels is not
No es un uso no es un uso eficiente de la tierra.
it's not a effective use of the land at the site.
La Comisión de Planificación no debería de hacerlo, debería de hacerlo imposible para dar permiso para construir estos hoteles.
The hotel shouldn't. I mean, the commission shouldn't, bend over backwards or do the impossible to construct these two hotels
Sin un análisis adecuado de los impactos ambientales,
without an analysis of the environmental impacts on the
en la comunidad
community.
rechacen los hoteles en propuesta de la calle 120.
Reject these two hotels and the one on 120th Street.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Buenas noches, comisionados. Mi nombre es Martín González.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Martin Gonzalez.
Tengo 22 años viviendo en la ciudad de Hatton.
He has 22 years living in Hawthorne.
He visto más tráfico ahora que años anteriores que yo he vivido aquí.
And he's seen, more and more traffic every year.
Ok, tenemos las escuelas que tenemos cerca de aquí. Eso impactaría mucho más el ambiente para los muchachos.
And there's many schools in the area, and it'll impact the environment for the children.
So, por favor, ustedes que son los comisionados, detengan estos proyectos.
So for those of you who are the commissioners, please hold these projects.
Because necesitamos más viviendas mejor para la ciudad de Hatton, que nos hace más falta.
So please, we need more affordable housing. We don't need, that's what we're really lacking.
Ya. Y pues yo quiero agradecerles que me estén escuchando y ojalá apoyen nuestra petición para que no se haga eso en la 120.
So, thank you very much for listening, and please stop this project on 120th Street.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Buenas noches, comisionados. Soy Norma González y trabajo como coordinadora en el Hotel Four Points by Sheraton.
So, good evening. My name's Norma Gonzalez, and I work as a coordinator in the 4 Points by Sheraton Hotel.
He sido residente de Hatton durante 14 años.
I've lived in Hawthorne for 14 years.
Vivir cerca de un hotel puede ser muy ruidoso.
To live close to a hotel can be noisy.
Lo sé, trabajo en uno y construir un hotel también puede ser mucho ruido.
She knows because I work in a hotel, and to build one as well can make a lot of noise.
Conozco a muchas personas que viven y trabajan en los alrededores del hotel.
I know many people who live around this hotel, and who work around there.
Pero los impactos de este proyecto sobre el ruido no han sido analizados adecuadamente y es contra la ley.
So the noise impacts of this project have not been adequately analyzed, and that is against the law.
Observar el ruido que crea este proyecto es especialmente importante para Hatton.
To analyze the noise impacts is especially important in Hawthorne.
Y en esta parte de Hatton en particular ya experimenta mucho ruido.
So especially in this area, there's already a lot of noise.
El aeropuerto y la 105 están justo ahí.
So the airport's right there, the 105 is right there.
La contaminación acústica es dañina y provoca presión arterial alta.
So noise pollution does cause harm. It can lead to high blood pressure.
Y peores resultados para los niños.
And worse outcomes for children.
Hatton merece que se tome en serio los impactos del ruido.
Hawthorne deserves to have the noise impacts taken seriously.
No permitan que este hotel en la calle 120 siga adelante, a menos que se analicen todos los impactos del proyecto.
Please don't let this project go forward without analyzing all of the impacts on the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Verónica Rodríguez y vivo en la ciudad de Hatton por 20 años. Soy miembro del local 11.
So, you know, ¿cómo se llama eso?
Verónica Rodríguez.
Veronica Rodriguez, she's lived here for 20 years in Hawthorne, and she is a member of our union, Unite Here Local 11.
Las rentas aquí en Hatton se vuelven cada vez más caras año tras año.
So the rents are getting higher and higher every year here in Hawthorne.
Pero no generalizan, no impiden las ciudades realizan una revisión ambiental.
But that hasn't stopped, you know, proper environmental analysis
adecuada de los proyectos
for, you know, of housing projects in the city.
de vivienda. Por lo contrario,
In contrast,
vemos que muchas ciudades no realizan una revisión ambiental.
but we see that like many cities don't do a proper environmental review
adecuada de los proyectos hoteleros.
of hotel projects.
Es muy importante que la ciudad analice a todos los impactos ambientales de proyectos.
So it's very important that you analyze all the environmental impacts of this project.
No permitan este hotel en el segundo sin realizar ambiental.
So don't permit the one on El Segundo as well without an adequate environmental review.
Y personalmente yo pienso que como ser humano, nosotros estamos viviendo muy duro aquí en la ciudad de Hatton porque no hay viviendas para nosotros. Es muy alta. Yo soy mamá soltera, no puedo pagar.
So she's saying, like, and as just to like as a human, right? It's so difficult to find housing here in Hawthorne. You know, she's a single mom. It's really difficult to pay.
Y vemos mucha gente que no tiene vivienda y está en la calle.
And we see many people who don't have homes and are living on the streets.
Y necesitamos que también ustedes analicen todo eso. Nada más para construir. Necesitamos también que sean humanidad, que veamos la humanidad cómo está viviendo. Muchas gracias.
And so we hope that you'll not just analyze, you know, these projects, but also all of that, the challenges that folks are facing, and the humanity, display that humanity. So thank you all very much.
Thank you so much. Mr. McLean, are there any documents that you wish to place into administrative? Oh, so I'm so sorry. Sorry.
My name is Ana Sanchez. I live right around the corner of you guys here. I'm a neighbor, and I also wish to say my friend about a lot of homeless, and you guys or whoever is focused on doing other projects, hotels or business here. They don't focus about the homeless. They don't focus about to fix the mall. They don't focus about to fix the Robert Kennedy Hospital and clean it, because that environment is very bad for us, especially I'm an asthmatic person. And whatever I hear, everything I hear over here about the pollution and all the air quality is going to affect myself, not only myself, a lot of people. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
will you
much.
please, just listen and focus and fix around our neighbors first, because it's dangerous right now for us to live around here. Even I live behind the police.
Thank
Very,
you
very
so
dangerous.
much. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else? Is there anyone else that wishes to speak?
My name's Tom Olson. I'm here from 13,000 Weber Way. I'm here for the 2021 DR06. Is this the proper time to speak on that?
You said DR06?
Correct.
Yes, that is the proper time to speak about it. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
My brothers and I own the adjacent property, and we encourage the development, but we just
Are you here for the one on Weber Way, correct?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, that's 22 DR07.
Oh,
Oh, because
okay.
he did say 06.
I have it.
I just looked at the number. Okay, sir, then you'll have a chance to speak about it after.
Okay.
Thank you so
Sorry.
much. I apologize about that. He said 06, that's why. Mr. McLean, are there any documents that you wish to place into administrative record?
All of the documents that we received are in your packet.
Yes.
And there have been none received today.
Okay. Do my fellow commissioners have any final comments on this item or questions for staff?
Okay. Yeah, so I had a few questions for staff. I think the question has kind of been belabored or asked a bunch so far. First off, I wanted to understand, for this CADX exemption that we're filing for, is this, first off, are we just applying to CEQA to see if they will approve this type of exemption, or are we specifically stating that we should have this type of exemption?
No, the CEQA doesn't work as an application process. We make the determination that we have done the right CEQA interpretation, and we've recommended a Class 32 categorical exemption for this project. The applicant, I mean the speakers today, they're saying that we should take it to another level, which could either be a negative declaration, a mitigated negative declaration, or an environmental impact report. Those are the other options.
Okay, so I guess the next question would be, I do understand from the speaker's concerns, when they're discussing the air quality and the noise issue, it does sound like that is a concern specifically during construction, because we have those machines that are there, but are you basing this exemption saying that the project as it continues to, as it exists in its normal status, would not impact the environment, or are we just saying overall, like?
Well, first of all, we're not saying it won't impact. We're saying it won't significantly impact. That's an important distinction.
Okay.
And then, no, we consider both the construction phase and the operational phase.
Okay. Next, I personally would ask, as a resident who does live in the Holly Park area, like not too far from that 120th spot, and understanding that there is a lot of traffic there already, what did we decide, what brought us to the decision that there shouldn't be a traffic impact study?
We had a traffic study done, but it wasn't required. It was asked for by the Public Works Department, and they, in that study, the conclusion was that it was how do you say it? It screened out of the analysis. Now, I know there's talk about widening and so forth, but that's not a CEQA concern any longer. So we're looking at vehicle miles traveled.
Okay, and then my follow-up to that would be, since there was a traffic study that was already done, was there a reason we didn't include it in the packet?
Yeah, because that traffic study was focused on a question that the Public Works Department was looking at.
Okay. Would it be a significant issue to have a traffic study
No,
done that
we could get that
see?
for you.
Okay. And then same question. Most people have brought this up, and I know we've discussed this before about the air quality. And with the increased traffic, are we anticipating there would be no significant impact to air quality in the area?
Yes.
Okay. Was that just a determination made by staff, or was there any?
It's our recommendation, yes. It's staff's recommendation.
I guess my follow-up to that is, what evidence is staff using to come to that?
Well, actually, we don't do an initial study, which would get us into all the weeds when we're doing a categorical exemption, unless it's one of those categorical exemptions that specifically requires you to look at those things, and this is not one of those.
Gotcha. Okay. Let me see. I think I had one other question.
I'm sorry, Commissioner. Could you turn your mic to
Oh,
fit you?
sorry. Yeah.
I'm having a hard time. Sorry.
It's just, it's right there.
Thank you.
One of the letters, or one of the letters that was sent in, I thought was interesting, or wondering why there was something about landscaping and the visibility for the neighbors nearby. Is that something we can add as a condition to make sure that there's no visibility issues?
Of course, yes. Now, the neighbor in question is to the west,
right,
across the parking lot, then across the channel. So, I mean, it's fairly far away, so we didn't make any recommendation for special landscaping to screen it because, you know, it's a little unusual under the circumstances, but you're free to do that.
Understood. And then just as what was brought up during the hearing, I didn't notice anything anything about an emergency services permit. Like, can you speak a little bit more about what that is? Or was there an issue there, or what are we looking at there?
No, when we get these applications, they're routed to all of the departments, including police and fire, and they have a chance to make comments on those things. And they, if they make no comments, or if they say if it's good, then they have no concerns for that. So that's the situation here.
Gotcha. Okay. I think for now that's everything for me.
So through the chair, have a couple questions, general comments, and some concerns. So I'll start off with the questions to staff. I know in the past the applicants have provided economic feasibility study for hotels. Is there a certain threshold that requires that, or?
No, this is a kind of a special circumstance. For another reason, an economic study was being produced on behalf of this project and a few others by a city's hired consultant. Mm-hmm. And it made no sense to have another economic development study. So it's not completed yet. It's preliminarily, it's fine. I know there's a lot of hotels in the area, but the capacity is not saturated yet. Yeah. And so we waived the requirement in this case because it would be duplicative.
Okay. And I now that you mentioned that, I do recall now that the one in particular that I'm recalling was the hotel next door. And I think the city required that because it had, it was providing some concessions or something like that. Okay. Second question is there's along the entire property line, is there a solid fence or?
No, at the moment there's I believe, a chain link fence.
Okay. But nothing
There's an
solid.
option for that to become a condition of approval if that's acceptable to the majority.
Yeah, I do see that as an issue. The headlights from cars at night shining, especially for the parking that is along the property line and facing the neighbors. So, and also on the south side of the property line, where the lights at night would have an impact on the traffic on 120th Street. You know, getting lights from the side, because there is no landscaping between those parking stalls that are right adjacent to the Dominguez Channel. So that would be an issue. This property, where it's located, it's a very unique site. It's very isolated. It's flanked by a lot of traffic, a lot of pollution. And so the site is for sure not ideal for long-term permanent housing. I mean, the last thing you want to do is provide permanent housing in places where there is a lot of pollution by the freeway, especially by the freeway, but also 120th Street. So that's why this area, you know, I don't see a loss of housing, potential housing in this space. It's not even fit for a park because of the pollution again, you know. So transient housing, which is, or temporary housing, like for hotels, it's really, if there is a good use for it, that would be it, you know, because it's people that are coming in, they're not staying there for very long, and they provide income to the city and a use that would otherwise not be suited for that site. So that being said, the elevation of that building, which is a south elevation facing, I consider that the primary elevation of the building because it's facing the city. It's facing 120th Street. And so that's more the public elevation that I see. And it's, in terms of the design review, it's the worst elevation. There's not a lot of articulation in the facade, in the materials. That building elevation is completely flat. It looks like there is some attempt at articulating some design, like some colors maybe, but it's completely flat. And so I think in some of the design review examples that we have it might be for some of the other zoning areas, but there are some examples of design review or design for buildings and
Those are for mixed use and
mixed
residential.
use, correct, yeah. And so that being the most public face to the city, I think that there is a lot of work that the applicant needs to do to make that look more interesting and provide a better product to the city. Besides that, one of the issues I have is with landscaping. There is a large portion of land that is to the east of the parking, and it's pretty narrow, but it's very long. It's at least 10 feet in width, and in some cases it's wider. So given the fact that right now there is a lot of landscaping on that side, some very large trees that they're going to be tearing down, I would like to make it a condition that that the applicant add quite a bit more trees along that strip of open space. That, and also provide a solid fence along the property on the south and the west to block the headlights of the cars at night. Besides that, I don't have any other comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Caraballo.
So I have questions for staff and the applicant. First question for staff. Let's see. What is the exact exemption that you guys are proposing for this project?
I'm pretty sure it's a class 32 infill, but let me check because I didn't write this report. Yes, class 32 infill.
Usually there's like a description in the CEQA booklet for that.
I think it's present in one of the letters that was drafted. It says project does not qualify for class 32 exemption, and it does say what the exemptions are.
Oh,
if you
okay.
have a copy
No,
of
I
the
don't
letter.
have the copy.
Do you want me to read them out?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll read them out. A, the project is consistent with the applicable general plan designation and all applicable general plan policies, as well as with applicable zoning designations and regulations. B, the proposed development occurs within city limits on a project site of no more than 5 acres, substantially surrounded by urban areas. C, the project site has no value as habitat for endangered, rare, or threatened species. D, approval of project would not result in any significant effects relating to traffic, noise, air quality, or water quality. And E, the site can be adequately served by all required utilities and public services.
Okay. And then if we were to ask for a mitigated negative declaration, how would that process work?
Well, we would have to put this on hold, and we would hire a consultant to prepare that for us.
Okay. And
If I may, sir, I'm so sorry.
Oh,
Would that be on the city or the applicant?
It would be on the applicant, the cost, if that's what you're referring to. However, we've reviewed the letter that we were reading from, and we feel that we're confident that the Class 32 is still applicable. Now, there's a obviously a difference of opinion, so it's up to you to weigh that.
Okay. And then I heard that one of the issues was emergency services. I know you guys talked to police. Was fire also?
Yes, of course.
Okay. And then I had questions for the applicant.
Yes.
Okay. I want you to ask, what's your background with the organization?
I'm working with the the applicant for to help with the design of the building.
So just the design?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any like experience with the construction of the project?
Not much, no.
Okay. So I guess some of the questions that I had kind of deal with the construction and then kind of like the hotel operation. And you know, maybe we need to get back to this if you don't have the answers. But I was trying to see how would the construction of the bridge take place? Would you have to access from the residential side, or are you able to access, I guess, from 120 to do the construction of the bridge?
I'm not too sure. I think during
They would have to access from both sides to install the bridge.
Yeah.
But
so-
then the construction would access the site from the bridge, because once the bridge is installed, then the street that goes under the freeway would be closed.
Okay. And then as far as the parking, so it looks like there's 137 guest rooms and 130 parking spaces. So that's a difference of, 7 parking spaces. And I know there's the staff that, that are there. So, I mean, is this sufficient parking for the site?
This is exactly what's required by the municipal code, and the thought behind that was, and just so you know, the first 100 require parking space, the first 100 rooms. And then after that, it drops, depending on how many additional rooms. So the number is accurate. It's what's required. And when those things are planned and when this was adopted, consideration of the staff was included, of course. And we're finding that it's not as common for people to rent cars and stop, at the hotel. Some do, but a lot of people are just, taking other means of getting there and not having a car to park. So as that becomes more common, this will become less and less of a concern for us. But the requirement is 100 for the first 100, and then I think it was 0.75 for the rest. I'll have to check. It's either 0.75 or 0.5. Oh, here we go. It's point. Oh, that's not it. It's 0.75 for each room above 100, and there's 37 of them. So 37 times 0.75 gets you 27.75. We round that up to 28. So that's how we got to the 128 spaces.
Yeah, I know that the city has their standards for the requirements for parking. So I was hoping that the applicant had like a background in hotel management or something.
Well, the applicant himself does, but he's sent a representative.
Okay. And then, I know that, definitely with us being so close to, the stadium and the airport, that, hotels are definitely needed in the area. And we would probably see, all those guest rooms filled. And then, there are other modes of transportation, Uber and Lyft services. So yeah, I was just hoping that the applicant had like a background in maybe hotel management that would be able to answer that question for us. I think that's all of my questions. Yeah, that's all my questions.
Okay, so I just have one question. I mean, I understand both perspectives on this project, and I think that the public was quite reasonable they're not necessarily saying don't do it. They're saying, can we please have adequate research or environmental impact report to make sure that this is going to be okay. So would it be very unreasonable if we did request an environmental impact report from
Well,
the applicant?
you wouldn't want to go to an environmental impact report. This in no way warrants that. It's very far below that threshold. So the option would really be a mitigated neg deck.
Would that be unreasonable?
You can certainly request it.
I mean, I'm just.
I mean, just make that make that request, and then my recommendation would be, however, that if you're going to do that, I would instead deny the project and specify that as the reason. That at least frees the applicant to appeal the project and move forward, rather than to be put into a 6 to 9 month limbo.
So that would be a better solution than continuing and asking for it?
Well, if the applicant asks for continuance, that's okay, but the mitigated neg deck is not done by the next meeting. It would be done several months from now. Not to mention that we would have to do an RFP and all that other stuff to get the consultant lined up. So I mean, we're talking 6 months probably.
Through the chair,
Yeah.
question on the impact report. Have we asked, or has there been a requirement for a similar mitigated impact report for other hotels?
No, as far as I know, the other hotels were also done with infill projects.
Yeah. Okay.
CEQA acknowledges that there are, things that have impacts, and you can't expect to, have to mitigate everything, because then nothing would ever get built, right? So when you choose the Class 32 exemption, there's the caveats that you read out, and if you feel that those are not adequately justified, then you can continue this or you can deny it. Those, I think, would be the best recommendations.
One more question through the chair. The zone for this site, what is this?
This is an M2.
M2.
Yeah, it's an industrial, general industrial zone.
Okay, so potentially other projects that could be considered for that site can have a
Yeah,
larger
there's a
impact?
number of, I mean, the general industrial zone allows industrial uses by right. So that is an option. Not sure that it would work because they have to build a bridge.
Yeah.
But the other alternative is, what you have, which is a vacant lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say at the same time, I do understand, I mean, nothing else can exist there except this. I mean, that also, as Commissioner Ortiz stated, it is, it's either left like this or, I don't know. Anybody else have
Through the
anything to
chair.
say? Yes, go ahead.
Well, first off, I just wanted to say my question is going to be of staff. So if the applicant wanted to have a seat, I don't want you to stand there all night, man.
I was just wondering if you have-
Yes. So first question I wanted to ask. I noticed here in Exhibit A, we have like 5 pending approvals. There's Sheriff's Department, Inglewood City of Inglewood Caltrans, all these other approvals. Are these approvals pending this action first, or do
No,
we wait for those?
well, it's a chicken and egg because both sides want the other side to go first.
Got it.
And that's part of the problem with, why this has been taking years to come to fruition. We have decided that the applicant has a period of time to act on this, and if he doesn't get these other permits done in time, he's entitled to 1 extension. And if he still doesn't get it done in time, then he misses his opportunity, and he has to apply again.
Okay, and if you don't mind, what is that period of time?
You know what? I've got so many different cities things running through my head that I don't remember specifically for Hawthorne, but I think it's a total of 2 years and a 1-year extension.
So at the most, you have 3 years to move on this? Okay.
Yeah.
With that being said, this is more of a point of clarification. In Exhibit A, item 9, it says access to the hotel and parking lot shall be only permitted from the El Segundo Boulevard. I'm thinking that might be.
That's
for
yeah, I'm sorry,
typo.
that's
Was it wrong?
obviously intended for the other hotel.
Okay, great. And then, no offense, I just wanted to.
I'm sorry, that was a condition. Can you tell me which one?
This is Exhibit A, item 9. In, yeah.
Hold on just a second. I'm seeing item 9 as saying any portion of the property not developed shall be enclosed by a permanent tubular steel or wrought iron fence, landscaped and irrigated.
Using the wrong term. This is Exhibit A, standard requirements of approval for application 2021 CU9. Under conditions of approval, it's number 9. It says access to the hotel and parking lot by guests shall only be permitted from El Segundo Boulevard, other than emergency exits as required by Building and Safety Department.
Okay, let me see if I was given the wrong one here. Oh, I think I know what I'm doing. I was looking at the design review resolution. Sorry about that. Give me a moment here. I'm sorry, I was not given that in my package today, so I can't speak to it directly, but,
I can bring it to you afterwards.
yeah, if it's the wrong street, we'll correct
Yeah.
it. But that's a easy fix.
Yeah, not a
that-
big deal. It just confused me when I was
Yeah,
reading it.
absolutely. But since you flagged it, basically we'll take that as direction to fix that.
Perfect, thank you. And then I did want to ask, just because as I asked before about the approvals, and you mentioned that it's kind of chicken and egg type deal where everybody wants someone else to be first. I will have to respectfully disagree with the idea that you said denying this project would be the best way, because then they could appeal it and move forward without that 6 to 9 month limbo.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was actually giving the applicant's perspective on that.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah, that's my recommendation is to approve it, and we feel that the CEQA categorical exemption is adequate.
So I guess the reason I even bring that up is if the applicant is currently waiting for other approvals from other cities, it doesn't seem to me that it's unreasonable for us to say we do a mitigated CE or mitigated exemption that may take the time for us to get an RFP and get people, because he still has to wait on getting those approvals from other places. So it's not like he's actually using any extra time. The project can't get moved forward. We've got a 3-year window where this can get done. So if you could do it within the 3 years, to me, it doesn't seem like it's completely unreasonable. Or am I misrepresenting or missing something?
Well, I don't know how close he is to getting those at this point. I mean, he's been working on it for a couple of years, so it's hard to say if the timing is is going to work out. I don't know.
Gotcha. So I get what you're saying. They could come through tomorrow and then we're held up if we're doing.
And I think that his goal is to have this built for the Olympics, on that time scale.
Okay, and we've got what's that? When's the Olympics? 24?
I think it's next year, isn't it? Or 4 years from next year. That's
4
right.
years from next year. So, even, again, time seems to be on his side. At this
Yeah,
point,
no,
the way
I'm not
it stands
disputing
to
that.
me.
I'm not disputing it. But there are other events that come up, so.
That's fair.
I think Men's World Cup is 24.
I take it you'll be there for some of this game. Makes sense. Other question I would just like to ask. There's a new development on Century right across the street from the SoFi Stadium. There's a restaurant there. It's called Cork and Batter, but it also houses a hotel. It's a smaller hotel. I believe might be about the same size as this one. It functions. I was discussing this with some of the people in the planning department earlier about it functions similar to an Airbnb. Basically, you rent out the rooms through Airbnb. There's no concierge or anything. You walk in there. There's a restaurant that's attached to it. Big concern of mine when I went there, they had the national championship game down at SoFi, and when I went for a rest to have a meal, asked someone there, like, oh, this place has been booked out. It's fully bought. There's 600 rooms, or not 600 rooms. They expected 600 people to be there. They have no parking. It's all valet parking. Everything moves back and forth around the corner. So if you're saying, as we mentioned before, we have the SoFi here, we have 2 football teams here. It's reasonable to assume that we may have a hotel that's operating at 90 to 100% capacity for 16 to 18 weeks out of the year. That's already short 7 parking spaces. You can't park on the street anywhere there, because if you've been down 120th.
There's no parking on the street there. There is no parking on the street.
Exactly. There's no parking on the street. So where are those people going to go other than into the right neighborhood?
Well, you have to assume they're not all going to drive to the site. That's the assumption you have to make, and that's how the requirement is structured in the municipal code.
That's fair. So if we assume that everyone's not driving there, that gets right back to, do we end up in like a Vegas style issue where we have Ubers that are backed up down the middle of 120th on every game week for 16 weeks out of the year?
I don't believe that would be the case, because when you enter the site, the driveway goes straight to the back where the main entrance, the main entrance is on the side, but you get to go straight to the back and turn around. So there's a sort of a stacking capacity for that kind of thing.
Okay, that makes sense. This is just some conversation to the rest of the commissioners. Personally, I think time is on our side in the idea of having some kind of impact survey done. I don't, now again, as I'm sure no one up here wants to unnecessarily burden an applicant of doing something in the space, because like Juan mentioned, we can't do much else there other than duplicate the homeless project that we've done. It's the only other thing we could do there, and that's not quite transitory. And housing is still not really the best place to put someone there. So,
yeah. And if I may speak a little bit, I do think it's really the best and only type of project that we can have on that site for the reasons I cited. Right now, it's a bit of a blight, that
No,
site. I don't know
100%.
if you guys have passed by, but there's always a problem of excessive junk and trash in that site, and I'm sure there's other problems that are associated with it. So I think if all we're doing is really just delaying the project, but we believe that it is the best project for that site, I think we should focus on how to make that project the best project possible.
Thanks.
And so that's where I would go to some other things that I mentioned about the site, improving the site, improving the look of the building, so that the city does get a quality project instead of something that's just, as currently designed, it's just a big box of plaster. One of my other big concerns with the way it's currently designed, especially on that facade facing 120th Street, is that because it is all plaster and the type of construction, one good example of how ugly that project can look after a few years, I believe there's one of the hotels that's on Imperial Boulevard and Hawthorne Boulevard. I think it's the Candlewood Hotel, and I believe it's by the same developer. That whole facade, it's about 5 stories in height. I mean, it just looks hideous right now because it's a very inexpensive, cheap material that they put on that facade. And so you see streaks of dirt, coming down. You could see the construction material, the studs, transferring through the plaster. So that's why I'm concerned specifically about that elevation. So I'll put a motion to approve. Well, actually,
before you,
so I do believe that we shouldn't have to tell the applicant how to design a good project. He should come back with a better design for that elevation. But I'm not sure how do we go about
Actually,
doing that?
you bring up something else that reminded me of. Sorry. So so I've been in that lot before. Like I've walked around in there before because I used to walk to work past there. So when you talk about that street that's being closed off, that's in Inglewood, on the Inglewood side, you have a big. We already had a resident mention that they have a homeless issue there. When you block off that street, when we're sealing it off, we're actually creating another really attractive space to just stay. And I know I'm wondering, is there something that we can do to have the applicant and somehow work with Inglewood to ensure that what you're not doing is just creating, like, I don't know if any of you have ever been under the like by the freeway closer towards like the western side. Like, it gets real bad down there. And I don't want to see something like that happen just because we're blocking off side of the street and saying, hey, that's Inglewood's problem, let them deal with it. So how is there a way that, because we are creating an impact there by changing. So how do we, is there a way that we help to have us mitigate the impact on our neighbors?
It's a difficult problem because, we can't, it's not on the property, for one thing.
Yeah.
And so we can't require a mitigation, or I'm going to say mitigation, a condition, we can't require a condition in another city.
Right.
Without their consent. Now, there can be an agreement between the developer and that city to do this, and I think it would be prudent for them to initiate that, if they haven't already. But it's difficult for us in our position as Hawthorne to condition anything in Inglewood.
So basically, I guess what we could do, since we can't require anything, is there a way we can make a suggestion that, hey, please look into this somehow, some way, type thing?
Yeah, absolutely. We can add that to the resolution as a suggestion.
Okay. I think that's it for.
So lastly, I'd like to point out that we've structured this so that the application, the conditional use and design review are going to be separate votes because they have separate resolutions.
Okay.
So the design review, that could encompass improvements to the site and the building?
Yes, yeah.
Or conditions?
Yeah, so you had mentioned landscaping on the thin strip. That could be handled through a design review.
Solid fence?
Yes,
the
solid
building
fence.
look?
Yes.
Okay.
All of those could also be put on the conditional use. Those are acceptable there too.
Okay, so in terms of the applicant coming back with a better design that incorporates all that so that we don't have to make it a condition, what would be the procedure? Do we continue or do we?
It's hard to say because I don't know I don't really know how the commission feels about it, but I mean, one way you could go forward would be to approve the conditional use permit that just allows a hotel, the concept of a hotel, and then continue the design review and ask for a better design. Now, what that would mean is you'll get the same size hotel, roughly, same number of rooms, same number of parking spaces, but you'll have an opportunity to address landscaping, fencing, and that sort of thing. That's one way to go about it. If on the other hand, they're both continued, then, direction is given to the applicant now.
And if we approve with a condition of a negative declaration, would that be very harsh on the applicant?
Well, you can't approve a negative declaration without doing the studies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The condition of, yes.
Yeah, so you would have two options in that case. You would either deny it without prejudice and have that happen, but then they wouldn't be able to apply again for a year, or you would just continue it to a date uncertain and wait for the mitigated neg deck to be finished, and then we would bring it back with that.
So my issue, through the chair, my issue with that is that at this point we have the ability to set conditions specific to the building and to the site. If we if we delay it, once it comes back, it could be, who knows, in 6 months, a year. Some of us might not be here. And, you know, I feel that building does require quite a bit of redesign, that maybe in the future, whoever replaces us might not feel the same way. We might get an inferior product. So that's my concern also, to be honest. Yeah.
Question about the continuance. If we were to approve the idea of a hotel, like you said before, just the hotel, would we be able, since it's a design review that would come back to us, are we still able to say that we would like this design to come back after a traffic study has been done, after?
You wouldn't be
can't
able
do
to
that?
make the case for a nexus there.
Didn't think so. Okay.
Anyone else from the commissioners? Okay.
I feel like that we still need some more information. I know that Commissioner Richard, he asked for the traffic study that you said that has been prepared, so I would like to see that. And then also maybe a construction plan from the applicant on how they intend to do construction, and then also reduce any potential impacts to the area, and also a timeline for the construction. And then also, you know, from the applicant, an idea of how they intend to utilize the parking, maybe examples from other hotels on the amount of parking that's dedicated for the site, and if that is sufficient for what they're proposing. And then I do feel the concern for the residents, and believe that there should be a mitigated negative declaration.
Well, I'm going to close the public hearing.
Well, if you're going to continue the item, don't.
Don't,
But
okay.
I realized earlier that the order on the script is a little bit off, so you want to
should have a
take
motion.
a motion first and a vote on that, then we'll decide if we close it or not.
Okay. Do I have a motion for the conditional use permit?
My motion would be to approve the project with, or to continue the project of both the conditional use permit and the design review until the applicant comes back to us with an improved design for the site and the building.
Do I have a second for
That's mine.
continuance?
Are we then continuing to a date uncertain?
I'm sorry, sir?
I don't think you're going to get a resolution on the issues of the conditional use permit by the next meeting, so.
Well,
If-
my motion, just to be clear, my motion does not include the requirement for a mitigated negative
Oh, I see, I see.
declaration. That's my motion, without that.
Okay, so then you would be continuing to the next meeting then? Okay, got it.
Do I have a second?
I believe what Mr. McLean said was if we continue the project, we cannot put the requirement to get the reports done. If that's
No,
the-
that's not true.
It's not true?
No,
So-
no, you can.
So we can get so in a continuance, so we can have
Yeah,
the
it'd just
reports.
be a long continuance. So what we would do in the case like this, if that is the direction that comes up, we would continue it without a specified date, and then we would be obligated to notify the public and the other interested parties in the same way we did for the first hearing.
Do we have a general idea of how long we will?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
No.
So, just so that we don't vote on something and it gets denied, Commissioner Richard, are you leaning towards requiring the mitigated negative declaration report? Is that?
What my major concern, what I need is the traffic study. I want the traffic study done. I want to see the traffic study. I want to see I want to see that information that's helping us get to where we get to this decision. If that's through a negative declaration, if that's through a continuation, whatever the most efficient way for us to get that information into the hands of us and then everyone else to see it, that's the way I want to go about it.
We could supply that to you with a continuation, and then we would post it on the internet as well, so everybody else would have it too.
Okay.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is you don't necessarily looking to require the mitigated negative declaration.
I'm telling the 100% honest truth. I don't particularly understand the difference between this mitigated and negative declaration right now. So that's why what I know I need is that information. That's why I'm only sticking to that one. I was, before we set the motion, going to ask if Commissioner Caraveo, who is in favor of that one, would explain a little bit more of why that particular course of action is the one you think would be the best way to go.
So the way it works is if it's exempt per CEQA, then there's no study that needs to be done. If we feel that there is a potential impact or significant impact, then we can ask for a mitigated negative declaration saying that if they do these certain things, then the project is not a significant impact to the area.
If I can clarify that a little bit, what would happen in that case is there would be an initial study that would determine if there's a significant impact, and if there are any that can be mitigated, then those would be mitigated. So it's not a guarantee, but they have to find that there's a significant impact.
And even that takes about 6 months?
Well, considering I'd have to do an RFP and hire someone and everything, yes.
So if I'm clear on what I'm hearing there, you said there's an initial survey, initial impact initial study done.
Yeah.
So if that initial study comes back and says, hey, there's no significant impact.
In that case, then the proper form would be a negative declaration. It's the same thing, but without mitigation.
It's basically the difference is that you get a professional.
We get a professional
firm
study
that evaluates it and provides the results.
One of you may have swayed my opinion to go in that way because it sounds like getting in a professional to do it is a good idea. Just like to me.
And just to be clear, that's not something that we would normally do if we feel that the categorical exemption applies. And there's other exemptions too, but we don't need to get into that. So
I got
I mean, in my point, and I know that we have a lot of people opposing this today, but I have to say that I do trust the planning commission, the planning department. If the planning department, I mean, you know this, you've been doing this for so long. If you're claiming that it's exempt, I do believe that it's exempt. So the report that I would be asking for is just so that the public is at ease that it's okay. So it wouldn't be that I'm, I definitely don't doubt the planning department, but it seems that they have concerns that they didn't feel were answered today.
Right.
And that would be the only reason why I'm asking for it. But at the same time, I don't want to overburden the applicant. So, and again, I mean, I didn't hear anyone here say, specifically no, as much as it was, please give us a report.
Right.
So,
I think that's.
I don't know.
I think you echo the sentiments correctly. It's not a doubt of the commission of the work that the staff has done. It's simply to say that we want to make sure that we're getting all the information on the table so everyone can look at it and feel comfortable going forward. So like I said, my main goal here is to make sure the easiest, most efficient way for us to get that information without overburdening staff who has to do it, overburdening I can't say words, applicant. So we want to do that. We want to make sure that we're getting this information out as most efficiently as we can. So I don't know if that goes through Commissioner.
Well,
Ortiz's
there's a motion to continue this to the next meeting, and of course, if at the next meeting, then the direction is do the initial study, then we'll continue it indefinitely after that. But that's the motion. We don't have a second yet.
Do we have a second? Knowing that we can.
Making the second doesn't commit you to voting
No.
one way or the other,
I
so it
know.
really doesn't matter. The vote's what matters, not the second.
Okay.
I mean, we're just voting to continue. And then we can sleep on it. We're just voting to continue right now.
Are we gonna get the traffic study and then the, maybe a construction plan by that?
Well,
time?
the traffic study I can get for you right away. We'll have to work with the applicant for the construction schedule.
If you believe we can get that information.
Well,
then I
you
can-
know, it would be in their interest to do that, considering that
can
you've
get-
asked for it.
Okay, then I can provide a second for that.
Okay. We ready for the vote then? Okay, Commissioner Ortiz,
Yes.
Commissioner Richard,
Yes.
Commissioner Caraveo,
Yes.
and Vice Chairperson El Shanable.
Yes.
Okay, so this item is continued to February 15th. And you have requested various studies and so forth to be provided, and that will be taken care of.
I now formally close the public hearing on this item. And we took the vote. Oh, we didn't
Do
take-
not close the public hearing, leave it open,
Oh,
it's
yes,
continued.
sorry.
Yeah.
I do not close the public hearing on this item. It's open because it's continued. And we are going to vote on the design review separately. So do I have a motion for the design review? Right? Or
That's
everything?
correct.
Okay.
You did the conditional use
Yes.
permit, now we do the design review.
So do I have a motion on the design review? Would you like to continue that too?
Thought that first motion was to continue both, wasn't it?
Well, they're to be handled separately.
Oh, okay.
So my motion would be the same, to continue with the applicant returning with improved design.
Okay. I'll second.
Okay, Commissioner Ortiz,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson El Shanable,
Yes.
Commissioner Caraveo,
Yes.
Commissioner Richard?
Yes.
Okay, this item is also continued.
Okay. Conditional use permit 2022 CU11 and design review 2022 DR06. Now is the time and place to open the public hearing to consider conditional use permit 2022 CU11 and design review 2021 DR06. Interim Planning Director McLean will present the staff report.
Let me get to the top of it. Okay, this is for the hotel at 5151 West El Segundo, well, I should say proposed hotel. This one has a bit of a history. This hotel was approved in 2013 for 129 rooms, and it was approved again in 2016, modified to 135 rooms. Unfortunately, the approval expired in 2019 without the applicant making a request for an extension. So the reason that it's been taking so long is because Caltrans and Fire Department approvals are still pending. So it's similar to the last one. The current version is for 142 rooms. This is the site. It's at the intersection of El Segundo Boulevard and the 405 freeway. This is the condition as it now, roughly. It's similar to the other one, except that this one has a building on it. Okay, so this is the ground floor. The ground floor will be parking. There's an entrance on the east part of the building and an exit on the west part of the building. And there's a ramp in there that says up, and that leads, I'm sorry, there's the landscape area. That leads to the second floor, which is just more parking. Okay. And then above that, you have the third floor, which has 25 rooms, a main lobby. Yeah, this also gives you the number of parking spaces. So it's 70 on the second floor and 62 on the lower floor. The third floor also contains the front desk, dining area, meeting room, media room, fitness center, and a patio, which we'll talk about in more detail a little bit later. Then the next three floors all have 39 rooms, and they're shaped, the building is shaped somewhat like a C at this point. This is the elevation looking north. So this is the site is at an angle, so it's really showing you more than you would actually see, because you're getting a little bit of a glimpse of the other side. But if you look at the center of the diagram and don't focus too much on the right side, this is basically the view you would get coming off of the freeway that was from the northbound 405. This is the elevation looking west, so this is what people on the freeway will see primarily. This is the view from the neighborhood roughly, and again, that part on the right won't be visible because that'll be facing the freeway. And it's also deceptive because some of those windows, or 3 of those windows in the center cluster, are actually going to be on a portion of the building far behind. This is the elevation looking west, so this is roughly what a driver going west on El Segundo would see. The colors, and they don't reproduce very well on the screens, but it's dark gray, cream, and dark brown. It's not pink. The other materials to be used would be similar to what was used on one of the other hotels that this developer has built, stone veneer. Landscaping occurs in the corner, which is on the east side of the property. It's not adjacent to El Segundo Boulevard. It's adjacent to the railroad tracks and adjacent to the residents, or at least one resident on the to the north. There's a close-up of the landscaping area. This is inaccessible, so there's no need to do anything other than to make it look good. So there is proposed ground cover in the middle, trees and shrubs along the edge, and there's also a requirement for either steel or wrought iron fence around the entire thing. So this is the plant palette. It's pretty standard, low water usage stuff. The next couple of things I want to talk to are things that were brought up to me after the last meeting, and I wanted to address them. One of them is the ability for guests at the hotel to look down into the yards. And so what I have proposed in your packet, you'll see that there's an additional condition of approval that says that the wall of the patio should be 5 feet high and 2 feet thick. And the reason for that is because an average sized person who's about 5.5 feet is going to only get about a 15% down view, okay? And this is very significant. Let me show you how it plays out on the site. They won't be able to see the ground for 95 feet out. Now, they'll be able to see houses and stuff at a shorter distance, but basically 2-story houses will be visible on the top floor, and 1-story houses will not be visible, and the bottom floor of a 2-story house will not generally be visible. I have some cones of vision worked out here. So this is the floor plan, not floor plan, I'm sorry. This is the footprint of the hotel, and this is the position of the patio. This is on the 3rd floor, so there's 2 floors of parking underneath this. So I've taken a look at this from 3 different angles. I'm sorry, there's the landscaping again. Here's the first one, and this shows the area that will not be visible from that position for a approximately 6-foot high person. I actually shortened it a little bit just to accommodate for that. So I think that's a fairly good distance. They'll be able to see everything outside of that red very easily, but it'll be at a distance. And that cone, or that arc, is the radius is 90 feet. Okay. From the middle, which is probably the best vantage point, this is how much will be not visible. Okay. And then from the other corner, this is how much will be not visible. Now, it's not that we can say nobody will be able to see what's going on below, but we're making it as difficult as possible by requiring the wall to be 5 feet high and 2 feet thick. Okay. Now, another issue that came out is visibility. Excuse me. Visibility from the windows of the hotel, and in particular those in this area here. So let's go back to the elevation. That represents these windows. There's 5 by 4, so we have 20 windows that actually face the residence. Now, I am not making a recommendation for a condition, but I'm not trying to downplay the issue. I just do not have a recommendation for a condition to mitigate this. So when you hear people saying that, you know, this is going to be an opportunity for people to look into their houses and into their yards, this is where it's going to be coming from, because I think we've addressed the patio. The last issue involves the emergency exit, and I wanted to zoom in on this area here. There it is. So what's going on here is that on the ground floor, the building is set back 5 feet from the other floors. And there's an emergency exit, and the emergency exit is, oops, sorry, I went the wrong way. The emergency exit is designed for people to exit in this fashion out onto Bart Street, which is in the unincorporated area. Now, this is not the only emergency exit, so other exits will, you know, dump into Hawthorne in different places. But the building codes require multiple emergency exits, and this is the one in that corner. I would recommend, I didn't write a condition because I wanted to have a chance for everybody to consider this, but at the very least, you know, that this door has to be alarmed and is not to be used except for in emergencies. But if the building's on fire, we definitely need to have some place for people to get out. So in summary, we got a 6-story building, 2 for parking, 4 for the hotel. It's 142 rooms, 132 parking stalls, so that is 1 for the first 100 rooms and 0.75 for the rooms above that. It's built to the property line on 4 sides, which is permissible in the code. There is a landscape triangle on the east, which would be adjacent to the railroad and to the residents to the north a little bit. And as I said, we're recommending water-wise, low-maintenance plants with a fence around it to keep anybody from trying to live there. The restricted hours for the patio was an original condition, and I forgot when it starts, but it ends at, I believe, 10 o'clock. But that's in the staff report. You can double check there. And they're proposing a stone veneer on the bottom floor and stucco on the 3 floors above. I should say bottom 2 floors because, you know, that would be where the parking structure is. Okay? So again, our recommendation is the same as the last one. Have a public hearing, hear the comments. And our recommendation would be then to close the hearing and approve the resolutions for the conditional use permit and the design review. And alternately, we can have the same discussion and continue this or deny it. Those are the other options. So that concludes my report. If anyone has any questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. McLean.
Through the
Does anyone have any questions from staff?
Through the chair.
Yes, of course.
First question, I noticed we said the prior approval was held up by, was the fire and?
No, it was approved by the city. It
Right.
hasn't been approved by, I think it was Caltrans and County Fire.
Do we know why?
I don't.
That's all.
Through the chair, you said that the first 2 levels would have a stone veneer.
You know what, let me confirm it. I'm gonna,
Um,
bear with me as I zip back through this thing, get to the elevations. I hate doing this, but it's the only way we're gonna know.
Says plaster, I believe.
Yeah, that's what that looks like. But that's what was said. So we can condition that to not be that, or to be that, or to be something else. I thought it was called out somewhere. Here, it looks like it is called out somewhere. Yeah. And the very bottom right of that building, in very, very tiny print, it says, what does it say? It says, exterior wall, stone veneer. So the rendering isn't good.
On the right?
So the part that is dark gray is actually supposed to be the blonde stone that I showed you.
Okay. And then can you go back to the diagram that showed the windows and adjacent to the neighbors? Okay. So it's right, there's zero setback, right, from the,
Yeah,
Outside.
16 of them on the left have zero setback. The other 4 on the right they're recessed a bit,
hmm,
but it
Yeah.
doesn't probably diminish their capacity to see what's going on.
that's it, no more questions.
Is there a setback requirement for the residential side?
No. Oops, not too far. There is not.
Okay, that's all my questions.
One last one.
Go ahead, sir.
Madam Chair, first, I do have a question. I want to commend you on your use of this program to do this modeling of the view thing. I think that was it's impressive. Question for you: have you played with the elevation of that wall? Like, if we raised it to 5.5 feet, do we notice a much more of a?
Oh, well, then almost nobody will see anything then. That's within your purview to do so.
I was wondering, as far as impact to the neighbors, how much more does that really?
Well,
cut
that
off?
would pretty much eliminate anybody being seen up there, maybe except for the very top of their hat. And I don't think there would be very many people that can look over that if we raise it to, say, 5.5 or 6 feet.
Is there like a design issue with going that high, or
No, it's just that no, there's none.
No? Okay. Is there like a real downside to it at all? Any particular reason for it?
People on the patio won't see the horizon. I guess that's about the extent of the downside.
Gotcha. Okay.
No sunset on that side, so.
There's no sunset on that side, yeah, but they won't, if they're out there in the morning, then they won't see the sunrise either.
I guess that's a big downside. Okay.
But they'd have to be standing in order to see it with the way I've already conditioned it, so I don't think it would make any difference if it were a little higher.
If it was filled with climbing vines, probably it will just give a
Well, it's pretty
nice,
high up though, so one of the options
on
was
the inside.
Yeah, well, one of the options was, rather than just a solid wall, was to do a planter with a solid hedge. There's just an option, and you're free to take that out or modify it. Now, I would say though, if you go up to, 5.5 or 6 feet, there's no need for it to be 2 feet thick. It probably can be something a little bit more reasonable, but that's still within your judgment.
Is it for real this time?
Okay. And my only question is, currently, what's the highest building that we have? At what height?
Thanks.
You know?
I think that maybe the people that live here might have a better sense of it, but I'm thinking that there probably is at least one 5-story building, but I'm not sure where that would be. Probably the hotels on Imperial.
Yeah. Okay.
Otherwise, I would say the water tower.
Good man.
The water tower does not take a lot of the
Good
visual
answer.
space. It's,
Obnoxious color.
Is the applicant here and do they wish to speak? Go ahead.
Hi. Again, my name is Jimmy Arias. I think they had the previous elevations, that's why it looked black instead of the stone. Apart from that, I think it was a mistake. We needed to add a entryway into the landscaped area. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
That would not be a public entryway, though, correct? That would just be
No
for
public
maintenance.
entryway from the guests, yes.
That was understood. I assumed it would be in the fence, but rather than through the parking structure, but that's up to them.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone who wishes to address the Planning Commission on this issue? Kindly limit your remarks to 3 minutes.
Okay, sure. I'll try to make this fast. Once again, Ruben Sanchez, Northampton Community Association. In regards to this plan, El Segundo, once again, it's more on the emergency services. You guys need to have that information. It sounds to me, it's beginning to sound. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if they're not here to oppose it, pretty much it's a go, and it shouldn't be that way. We need to hear, we need to get a report of that. Also, especially that it's facing the freeway, it's pretty much the first thing you see when you get off the freeway. The design is pretty important. Has to be something nice. To me personally, I don't think it'd be more of a no-go because it doesn't have a swimming pool. I like these hotels with with swimming pools. If that can be added, man, that'll be great. I know because I talked to some of the neighbors, they enjoy some of the luxuries like the ones you guys have next door with the swimming pool, and they enjoy that as well with their families. Just those items to talk about. Thank you so much. Have a good
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Lely Fernandez. I am a longtime resident here in Hawthorne, and I have seen some changes. We're developing, we're moving on, and I just want to kind of ask you guys if we can take in consideration. I noticed that this is the same developer that somebody just mentioned, the one on Imperial, and I was like, let me stop right there because that is horrible. I'm up the street in North Hawthorne, and maybe we can just, these people need to keep up their properties, their business properties, because it brings in negativity all along. Those hotels right there on Imperial, I don't know if they're voucher hotels, I have nothing against them, but there's no lighting, there's no safety. I had family from Mexico come in, and Holiday Inn has a very good reputation. They were very deceived by the name Holiday Inn. We had to check out and go to the one right across the street here. I don't know what the difference is between being able to get this one kept up or the other one, but are we going to look at what the safety of the residents around here in Hawthorne are when these hotels are going to go up? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Abigail, and my address is 5131 Stacy Street, and right here in Hawthorne, and I live here for like 35 years, and I didn't know it was up to you guys to tell me what's gonna be right in front of my house. It's terrible. When I open my door, that's the first thing I'm gonna see. This big building that looks like a prison. It looks worse. It looks so terrible. I never seen a building or a hotel that looks like that anybody try to build a building like that. And another thing, I have asthma. And as it is, when I clean my house, all I clean is something black. And I'm sure that's in my lungs too. And the impact that's gonna happen when I breathe all this, and it's gonna be not even 100 feet from my house. We don't have air conditioner. We live in California. We're supposed to be in the greatest weather in the world. And you guys are making it ugly. I'm sure that you guys' house is not gonna be in front of that building. And I hope you guys take that in consideration. And the traffic is gonna make it so bad. It took me a whole hour to take my grandchild to his practice, because at 3 o'clock, I don't know, I'm sure you guys don't live here, because the traffic here is so terrible. And I can imagine somebody trying to get out of that hotel or go in. And another thing, there's been so much, maybe you guys don't know because maybe you guys don't live here. There is so much prostitution on El Segundo. There's people that go in front of my house to have sex, and my kids are there. And it's not fair. And I call the police, and they don't want to listen anymore because they're already used to it. I don't want to get used to it. It's terrible that all my neighbors are sick from the environment, and you guys are not talking about anything about it. It's not fair. I hope you guys take that in consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, sweetie. And just to clarify, planning commissioners have to be residents of Hawthorne. So we cannot hold a position if we're not residents of Hawthorne. Thank you, sweetie. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. My name is Rafael Ochoa, and I'm a resident. Actually, I'm Abby's neighbor there. I'm at 5123 Stacy Street. And for those of you that may not be familiar with what Stacy Street is, right adjacent to BART there. So we, like Abby, would also be directly impacted. First, I want to say thank you to you, Greg, for pointing out some of the issues that we brought up at the last meeting. I think you did a marvelous job at bringing in some updated exhibits that answered some questions. However, I have to say that our concerns are not completely validated by or invalidated by what the information that you presented. I want it, ideally, of course, we don't want that in our backyard. I think if am I at liberty to use this laptop here? To share some of the slides that you showed before, just to refer to them.
Yeah, just use the arrows, yeah.
Okay, so that's the side that we would be seeing from our homes. Yeah, there are 20 windows facing our properties directly into our front yards and the streets that our kids play in. By the way, I have a 7, a 9, and an 18-year-old, all of them who grew up in this house. There's also 3 openings from the garage that lead out directly into our neighborhood there, and the lights that come with.
There's only one, I'm sorry. That's the one that I showed you.
I see 3 openings there.
No, those are ventilation openings.
And so gotcha. Thanks for the clarification. I see that door, the yellow door there. That's the emergency exit. I appreciate the idea of an alarm, but come on, let's be realistic. A criminal that doesn't care about an alarmed door, they're just going to barrel through it and it's directly into our neighborhoods. That's another concern. Also, on an environmental standpoint, I built my house from the ground up 6 years ago. I was obligated to get clearance from an agency in Sacramento because we are on abandoned oil wells, and specifically on that site. So I'd love to see what information was gathered on that. Referring to traffic studies, I don't see one anywhere in here, and I wouldn't be surprised if Caltrans hasn't approved this because of that. The entrance and the exit to this site commingle traffic with the off-ramp from 405 heading north and also the on-ramp heading north there, not to mention the railways or the rails that you've got there. So traffic study is very important here as well. And lastly, I want to end with property values. We are residents of Del Air. We're not we're not unincorporated, so I appreciate you taking our concerns into consideration first and foremost. Property values, we're looking at a loss of property values of anywhere from 20 to 30% simply by having this structure in our front yard. Many of us come from first-generation immigrants. I myself am an immigrant. I was born in Mexico. The generational wealth that other ethnicities have been able to accumulate is because of real estate. This is just the beginning for us. We want to leave our kids something. By building this hotel, you're taking 20 to 30% of the wealth that we've been able to establish from our properties and basically handing them over to a developer, who, by the way, I'm very familiar with, the applicant, and he has a history of pushing through projects, either through denials and appeals, or with very limited information, or with having a designer show up to represent him who really doesn't know much about the project itself. So I encourage you and plead with you, please get as much information on this before you even consider moving forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you again for your consideration. I do feel, that a lot of our concerns were very much heard, and many of them apply to this project again. So I won't belabor it again, and we won't have everybody speak, but we have the same concerns about air quality, about the noise impacts of this project, which is right next to, property owners, as you heard. And also, there was no traffic analysis for this project, to my knowledge. And so, many of our members will be impacted by the vehicle miles traveled that this could put on the road. And so, just to show, we have, many members here. So if we could stand up just to incorporate that all of these folks are concerned about this project as well. levantar que, we have many members here in Hawthorne very concerned about this project. We won't all speak again. So gracias a todos. So I will provide a list of that later. But, we appreciate the sentiment of the continuation earlier. But as I said, for this project, there's no air quality analysis. There's no noise analysis. And for this project, there is not a traffic or VMT analysis with the project. And we believe that our members who live here in Hawthorne and all of you on the commission deserve that analysis. It is certainly the case that other hotels that we have seen throughout the region do get this kind of analysis. And even though we aren't saying an EIR is appropriate in this case, for instance, in Beverly Hills, where I believe Mr. Carveo is a staffer, smaller hotels have received EIRs. And so, a hotel with 115 rooms, had an EIR. Now, this is 140 rooms. This is a significant project. This is not, a single family home. This is going to have impacts on the community. It is, right there by the freeway entrance. The vehicle miles that this project is going to contribute should be analyzed. The noise impacts of the construction should be analyzed. And the air quality impacts on the community, on the neighborhood, should be analyzed. And so we urge you to be clear and require that environmental study be conducted. A mitigated negative declaration in particular, we believe is appropriate. And that allows the commission to put in place mitigations that can actually reduce or address these kinds of problems that might come with the creation of a hotel of this size. So we believe that is required by law, and we would urge you to ensure that this project does that kind of environmental analysis. And we believe, in many other, I've seen hotels in Culver City and in other places in Los Angeles of this scale that do that kind of analysis. It is not unusual. And if this developer really wants to build this project, they owe it to the community to do the appropriate analysis. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Evening again, Honorable Planning Commission. Again, Jordan Sisson for Local 11, you heard. I want to say thank you for your really, the deliberation is top notch. As a commissioner for another city, it would be welcome, that level of questioning. And you made a lot of great questions. But I want to clarify some of the narrative that you may have heard. The city is being asked on a take it or leave it from the applicant. I feel for the planning department. I feel for you guys because you're being asked to take it or leave it. The applicant could do what other developers do throughout Southern California, whether it's Los Angeles, Beverly Hills, Riverside, Inglewood. Typically, this would be an MND. Even if they wanted to do a categorical exemption for a Class 3-2, typically you'll see an air quality study that says there are no impacts. You would see a noise study that would say, this is what our construction equipment is. This is what it's going to sound like. This is what's going to impact the neighbors that are right adjacent. That is typical. This applicant hasn't done that. Respectfully, saying that planning staff doesn't feel like an MND is necessary, that is not, under state law, substantial evidence. Conclusory statements, trust us, we don't feel it's necessary. That's not substantial evidence. We provided 6 pages of fact specifics and other projects that are similar in size, that were mitigated, that do have impacts. No response. And I feel for this city. They're being asked to take it or leave it, and you guys are right. Hawthorne deserves better. They do not need to take it or leave it. Please continue this and allow the applicant to do what other developers do. Provide the studies. Say what the impacts are, put in the conditions to mitigate it. And that's the difference between a categorical exemption and an MND. With an MND, it says these are the impacts, and we're going to mitigate it. By doing a categorical exemption, they're saying, no, we're not going to do CEQA. We're not going to study it. We're going to do nothing. The concerns are legitimate. Can they be mitigated? Absolutely. But for the applicant doing their heavy lifting. The last thing I want to address is, again, no air study, no VMT study, no noise study, same issues. But in terms of consistency with applicable zoning regulations, the 4 corners of your code is very clear about M2 zone. It incorporates C2 permitted uses, or no, apologies, C3 uses, which incorporates C2. I'm going to read you what it says. hotels or motels, but not apartment hotels, subject to a conditional use permit, period. A market feasibility study prepared by a city-approved consultant shall be submitted with a conditional use application. Maybe it's in with the application. Maybe it's in a file somewhere. But before the record that's been presented to all of us, I certainly don't see a feasibility study. And I don't see in the code that says any feasibility study. It says that this CUP should have a feasibility study with it. That suggests that this applicant, this project needs to do a feasibility study saying it's appropriate. This is equally applicable to this project as well as the last project. And I'm going to incorporate the comments from the last one since they're so similar. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and best of luck. Please continue this. Have them do the MND. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this topic? Okay. Mr. McLean, are there any documents that you wish to place into administrative record?
Only those that were supplied with the packets.
Okay. Do my fellow commissioners have any final comments on this item or questions from staff? For staff.
Okay, yeah, through the chair. Some of my similar comments in terms of the site itself. You know, its adjacency to the freeway and the pollutants in the surrounding area. Definitely wouldn't want to have this as any type of permanent housing. I do have an issue with the adjacency to the residential, although it's not part of the city of Hawthorne. Nevertheless, it is a negative aspect to the project that there's no setbacks to the backyards of those residents. What Mr. McLean mentioned about extending the patio wall, that starts to address that. But in terms of like the windows and the shadows that would be casted on the adjacent residents, I don't see how we can mitigate that. I would say that we have to look at it, keeping in mind what other projects by right can be built on that site, and if those projects would have a similar impact on the residents, you know, light, shadow, things like that. To me, it seems like this would be the least impactful project type. Again, we don't have residents that are there all the time. They are, you know, there for a few days, a week, whatever, you know, very limited. So in terms of the impact to the residents, I would say it would be, it seems to me that it would be minimal. I have a major issue with the design of the building. Again, it's a big stucco box. It looks like the veneer, the stone veneer on the bottom two levels was an afterthought. The renderings don't really, me being an architect, it's even hard for me to understand what kind of product we're getting with the drawings and the renderings that they provided. They don't reflect the actual materials and the actual colors, so that's a big problem for me. So I would definitely like to see an improved design that provides the city of Hawthorne with a better product, better quality product, and also on the side of the residents. Those, aside from that, I don't have. Another concern actually is the adjacency of the entrances of the hotel to the on-ramp, to the 405 on-ramp. So that is a concern of mine as well. The traffic, particularly in this on El Segundo Boulevard, it's really impacted more than the previous project than we reviewed. But so I would like to see a traffic study for this site. That's it.
Mr. Carver?
Um, so, I mean, I feel like this project, especially as it is now, isn't a good fit for that area. I noticed the hotel across the 405. I don't remember the name of it, but that one, it's separate from residential. It abuts the freeway. There's a off ramp that's near there, but not too close to the entrance. So they took into consideration the surrounding area. This one, it's not really taking into consideration the residents, and then also that entrance to the freeway. I mean, there might be ways to change it up to where maybe they provide privacy, by removing those windows from the residential side, by redesigning the project, or even having their viewing areas away from the residential, maybe over El Segundo. And then especially, with the construction being so close to the residential, providing, zero setback, I'm definitely not a fan of that. There should be, some type of setback with landscaping in those areas. And then also the height, maybe providing subterranean parking and maybe making it, 2 to 3 levels in height. That would be, better suited for that area. I mean, this is probably one of the tallest buildings, in that area on that side of the 405. And then, traffic study. A lot of people zoom on to the 405 from El Segundo, right there, and they're gonna have people lined up for the 405, and also people lined up for the hotel. So definitely want to see some type of traffic study.
Chair, I think you guys definitely got it. What I was first saying, traffic study for sure has to be done in that particular area. It seems like we're flirting with disaster with the way that we're entering the freeway over there, and trying to enter the hotel just doesn't seem like the best use of that space. I'm also on the side of potentially removing those windows. I'm not sure if there's any other real way that we could mitigate that risk or that impact on the residents for people being able to look in and out of your house. Seems a bit much. I'm not sure on the other side of that, if maybe we're able to move where the rooms are. So I get it. We're still trying to provide a view for those staying there, but maybe move them somewhere else where they're not impacting the residents quite as much. I think would be something we could look into for the design wise. And to get to Juan's point about the materials outside, that area, that specific spot has been blighted for quite some time. So I wouldn't want to see it done with subpar building materials, because it just puts us right back where we are right now. If we're going to let it sit there and become an eyesore, we've already got an eyesore there. We don't need another one. We don't need to create another one. So I would like to see something that is showing us more of exactly what this is going to look like, give us more of an idea of what we're getting. And especially because even in our report, I know we were able to see now some of the landscape, but that wasn't submitted with this report, so we couldn't see it ahead of time. So this one, the landscaping document and what we have. I can read the first line of it. Go. Applicant did not provide staff with landscaping plans as required, and it will be there before the time of public hearing. So
Those were emailed separately, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I wrote that report, we hadn't got them, but we had them before the first meeting date. That didn't happen.
I'm just saying when I was going through preparing for the meeting, so there, is there were some other questions I would have had about vegetation and things of that nature. So all that says to me is it gets back to kind of what Juan said about the stone facade. If it's done last, it seems like it was kind of an afterthought. It doesn't feel like it was intentionally done. If it was, it would have been there. Not trying. Just that's the truth. That's it. So, yeah, I'm more leaning towards the idea of us getting some more studies done and continuing this so we can have some more information about what we're particularly doing to our residents there. No, that's it for me.
Thank you. As for me, I think I'm most concerned with the visual space. I mean, we don't think how much something this bulky is going to take out of the visual space, and especially with the shadow on neighboring existing houses, and especially without any setbacks, just the bulkiness of the whole project. And I know, I mean, probably it's going to be one of the tallest buildings that we have, or leaning on being some of the tallest. I do understand the concerns of how it would feel, even losing the human scale next to it for neighboring residential buildings. And I do agree that we do need some more studies so that we can make a more informed decision before we can move forward.
Yeah. One last comment to the chair. I do understand that the developer wants to maximize the number of rooms, and it looks like, you know, after every approval, you know, he has been. I think we started off with 127 or something like that.
Yeah.
Now we're at 142. So I'm not blaming him or faulting him for trying to maximize profit and number of rooms. But if it's at the cost of providing the city with a quality product, I think there has to be a balance between how many rooms you provide, and a design that takes into account the surrounding, especially the residents in the back. So, yeah.
One question for clarification for me, Commissioner Caraveo made a comment about subterranean parking, which I think is an interesting idea. But I know, based on what the resident nearby said, who was saying he built his home and there was some concerns about being on an old oil derrick. Do we know anything about what the limitations the applicant, or what things the applicant would face in trying to do something like that and getting some subterranean parking to go there? I feel like that also may help us with the fact that we have these rooms that are looking into people's yards. If the whole property is coming down 2 stories, it may mitigate some of those. But do we know anything about that?
Yeah, we can look into it and get that information for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any of my other commissioners have anything else to say? Do I have a motion?
I can make the motion to continue the hearing with taking into account our comments on the design and the traffic study.
Yeah, I think the design we're going to comment on separately. Yes, the design we're also going to vote on separately.
Be the same.
Or can we vote
I mean,
on
you could
both?
say it now. It's one project, so
Okay,
I mean,
yes,
I can
okay.
just
Yeah.
interpret what's what.
Okay. I'll second.
Okay. Commissioner Ortiz,
Yes.
Commissioner or Vice Chairperson El Shanable,
Yes.
Commissioner Richard,
Yes.
Commissioner Caraveo.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll keep the public hearing open because the item is continued.
Yes.
Um,
So we need to address the design review now.
yes. And do I have a motion for the design review?
I would make the same motion as yes to continue with the applicant coming back with redesign, taking into account our comments and the traffic study.
I'll second.
Okay. Commissioner Ortiz,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson El Shanable,
Yes.
Commissioner Caraveo,
Yes.
Commissioner Richard.
Yes.
Okay, both of these items are continued to the February 15th meeting.
Design review 2022 DR07. Now is the time and place to open the public hearing to consider design review 2022 DR07 Assistant Planner Levy will present the staff report.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. So what we have here is a proposal for a design review for a two-story. Oh, I'll wait
I'll give everybody a second.
It's okay.
All right. So what we have is a design review for a two-story office and warehouse use. The project is on approximately 8,750 square foot lot. They're proposing to do a two-story total of 3,985 square feet. As you can see, it's located in the M2, the General Industrial, General Manufacturing Zone. It's located along Weber Way. Technically, its address is 13,000 Weber Way, but it shares that address with the building that's directly south of it. It is, as you can see, west of Shadron Avenue, which is essentially the closest non-private street to the lot.
Is El Segundo Boulevard, is that somewhere in the vicinity?
It's just to the north.
To the north,
Weber Way and, what's the other one called? Cerise Avenue in this part of the city are both private streets. They're not city streets, but they both take their access off of El Segundo Boulevard.
Thank you.
So currently the site is undeveloped. It's been used for miscellaneous storage. We have here the site plan. As you can see, there will be so there will be 8 parking spots. There will be 5 in the eastern portion with 3 in the west, which will be the frontage of the building. This meets the requirements for parking based on the square footage for both the warehousing portion and the office portion. So on the first floor, it's a mix of the warehouse and office uses. It'll have 2 large garage doors for access to the warehousing space. On the second floor, it's going to be entirely office with one small storage area as well as a water closet. We have here the roof plan. It just shows the potential drainage that's going to be channeled. Moving on to the elevations, we've got our main elevations here are fairly straightforward. We've got a CMU wall as the predominant building material. Here's our elevation where we're facing the garage doors. There's going to be a mixture of steel and glass for the most part. On the top of the building, there's actually going to be a stuccoed area. Above the garage door, there's going to be a metal awning as well. So as far as the proposed colors, you can see in this rendering that stucco portion is going to be painted this white color. The CMU is going to be painted a dark gray. A lot of the steel is going to be painted black color. And then, let's see, and there's proposing a sign that just has the address numbers, which will be welded onto this white metal awning that's above the first floor. As far as landscaping goes, they are proposing some along the western and eastern portions. It's going to all have drought-resistant plants. The trash enclosure will be shielded by landscaping as well to help soften the impact. The staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve and adopt PC Resolution 2023-05, approving the CEQA determination and the design review application, subject to conditions that will be included in the resolution. Any questions?
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone who wishes to address the commission on this issue? Yes.
My name is Ben Regal. I'm the architect for the project, representing the owners and tenants of the buildings who are here also, if you have any questions.
Thank you, sir. Mr. McLean, are there any documents that you wish to place in the administrative record?
No.
Do I have a motion? They're asking for it to be continued?
Not this one. Did I have that on the?
It's a continuation till February 15th?
No, that's for number 6. That's the next application. We're at the top of the same page.
No, I think.
On number 5 on the script, that the recommended motion is to approve resolution PC, well, that's the wrong number, but 2023-04, approving design review application 2022 DR06.
2022 DR. So do I have a motion to approve? Do I have a motion?
Wasn't there
You need to open
from
the
the
public
audience that
hearing.
wanted to speak on this?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, it was representing the applicant, right?
Well, you can ask if there's anybody else.
Yeah.
Oh, is there? I'm so sorry. I apologize if I missed that. Is there anyone who wishes to address the Planning Commission on this issue?
Hello, my name's Tom Olson, and we're at 13,000 Weber Way next door. And we're all for development. We just want the Planning Commission to be aware that this is a low drainage area for both the streets of Weber Way and Cerise. And when we get a big rain event, we get all that water right now that comes into that lot and goes to the back corner into a very small drainage pipe. And so we're just hoping that that's taken into account, because any additional water that backs up would affect our property and our neighbors' properties. So that's our main concern, because when it's deep, it's every vehicle, be it semi-trucks to vehicles, are driving through, estimate 12 inches or deeper water. The property also has a cell tower at the back of the property, and the meter for that cell tower is attached to our building and goes across our roof and down to that back part of the lot. So we're hoping that, and I'm not sure if that is up to the city or not, that power for that cell tower be taken off of our property and just be directly to the development. But otherwise, we're for it, and it's exciting to be here to see that it's going to be improved.
Thank you, sir. Mr. McLean, is that something that we can tackle, or is it up to
The
us?
cell tower power is not possible to address with this application, but it is something that I think that Mr. Olson should take up with the carrier, because they're obviously not paying you rent for that, right? So it would fall into the category of a civil matter.
Yes.
But
Drainage?
if all else fails, then we can also take a look at their conditional use permit for possible revocation. But I have a feeling that they won't let it get to that point if you contact them.
And how about the drainage?
The drainage is a little trickier. You can, within the purview of a design review, address the placement of things on the property. So you can, but I don't know if you can solve the drainage problem, because the whole area is like this.
Yeah, if I may, to the chair. So typically, when you do new construction on a property, code requirement is that any drainage that falls on that property has to be mitigated or addressed by the new development.
Okay.
So at the very least, you shouldn't be getting water exiting that site out to adjacent properties. They need to mitigate it within their property.
That's handled at the building permit stage.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
I'll
Go.
just address it. The part of,
Yes.
the part of our development is to do a hydrology study, and so we know, and of course we've seen it totally flooded, and part of the development is a drainage channel on the property to sort of kind of help mitigate the flooding in that area and direct it a little bit closer. So we're well of the area, well
aware of the
aware of the
problem.
issue, and the civil engineer has sort of designed a
Okay.
solution to that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Do any of my commissioners have anything more to add?
Yeah.
Yes,
so,
go ahead.
We're in discussion and
Yes.
motions, right? Yeah. So it's nice to see a project that's well designed and that is you know, it takes the surroundings into consideration. So that's one thing. It's a nice looking project. So I would just
I
make a
agree.
motion to approve.
Anyone else wants to say anything before we approve?
Yeah, I also believe that it's a nice design. I had a question for the applicant. Just wanted to know if you know or have a potential tenant in mind for the location.
Currently, the owner is intending to be the tenant. They run a glass and storefront fabrication.
Okay. Thank you.
That was my question.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the project.
I'll second.
Can we have a vote?
Okay. Commissioner Richard?
Yes.
Commissioner Caraveo?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes.
Vice Chairperson LaShonable?
Yes.
Okay, this is approved.
Conditional use permit 2022 CU10. Now is the time and place to open the public hearing to consider conditional use permit 2022 CU10. Interim Planning Director McLean will present the staff report.
The applicant contacted me today and requested that this item be continued.
Okay.
So we should
the car
continue it
wash.
to the February 15th meeting.
Do we have to vote or?
It doesn't hurt.
Okay. So
Somebody should make a motion.
So moved.
So moved. Commissioner Richards.
Richard, okay. Second?
I'll second. Sorry.
Okay, Commissioner Richard?
Yes.
Vice Chairperson LaShonable?
Yes.
Commissioner Caraveo?
Yes.
And Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes.
Okay, this item's continued then.
Call back to order the Airport Zoning Commission. Administrative items,
There are none.
items to be placed on future agendas.
We have nothing certain at this time.
Okay. Commissioner reports.
I just wanted to thank all the people that came out to voice their opinions on the projects. That gives us a better idea of what's going on in the community and also what the concerns are for certain projects. This is, you know, why we have these meetings so that we know what the concerns are, and it's good that we know that, you know, the notices are getting out to people and people are actually coming in to voice their opinions.
I agree. Very well said, Commissioner Caraveo. Yeah, without community input, you know, we're kind of just going off of our own experience and opinions, so it really does help. Yeah, good to see everybody.
Thank you. Commissioner Richards.
Yeah, I'll echo the same sentiments. You know, glad to see people came out because they care. That's at the end of the day, because they care, and that's what we're here to do, is make sure that we're providing the best possible projects for the city. And I want to commend the staff for the work you guys did on this. And I'll say I hope it didn't come off too aggressive there. We're just trying to make sure that we're getting the best things out for everyone. And then also I want to say happy Black History Month to everybody, because it is, you know, it's February 1st, so we're out here, and hope we're all taking the time to celebrate the history that's happening in front of us every day. As a matter of fact, we were recently talked about our city. We've got our first Black city clerk, first Black female city clerk, and first Black female city treasurer. So proud to see Hawthorne moving in a positive direction, and I hope to see us keep doing that. And yeah, that's it.
So first of all, I echo all your sentiments. And then I'd hate to make a really long meeting just a tiny bit longer, but there is something that I have to say. So one of the residents did point out to the fact that our terms are coming to an end, and I do believe that 3 commissioners on the Planning Commission, it is true that our terms are coming to an end, and there has been no more pleasure to me than serving my community and serving my city. And I am a little concerned that throughout the years, our reputation has been tainted by some, saying that we are in certain people's pockets. And it's disheartening to hear these things without even a shred of evidence. You know, once we were removed, the whole Planning Commission was dismissed by Mayor Juarez. And then I was appointed first by Mayor Larry Greedy, and then again I was appointed by Mayor Chris Brown. Yes. And about 2 years ago, something happened, and I wanted to bring it up in the Planning Commission then. And I didn't, and I am going to bring it up today. And this isn't just my feeling. This isn't just something that is not substantiated by evidence. I know that this is going to open a can of worms, but I do feel that this is the right time to say it. On April 18th, 2021, which is about almost 2 years ago, I received a phone call from Angie English. And in her phone call, verbatim, this is exactly what she said. At the time, I sent myself a message just to remember it in case I needed it. She said, "Hey, Rula, to give everyone a fair chance on the Planning Commission, especially that you're the only woman, I'm just giving you the heads up. I would hate to see you go. We need to bring business into the city and allow the hotels. We need to move forward, Hawthorne forward. It's becoming political, and the mayor is calling his appointees to do what he wants, and it shouldn't be political." The phone call lasted 4 minutes and 2 seconds, and I took a screenshot of the call, a received call that was from Angie English on April 18th, 2021. I did feel that it was a threat. And then I called Melissa, which was our then attorney, and again, I love Melissa and she's wonderful. She did advise me to sit on it for a while. Looking back at it now, her loyalty was to the city. And maybe I didn't see it then. And again, I'm not saying that there was any wrongdoing on her part. Her protection was to the city, not to me personally. I did feel that it was a threat, that if I'm not approving something, then I am not going to keep my position. And then things passed. I have a daughter with a medical condition that consumed much of my time, and I didn't think much of it then. Just to make it clear, in the past 5 years, I have not received a single call from Alex Vargas regarding any project that was on the agenda. The only phone calls that I've ever had with him was to graciously ask him to give a speech at the school that I work at, 8th grade graduation. He's always been very gracious to do that. Recently, only after we received the call that our terms were ending, he called me once to make sure that I was okay. So the insinuation that there's hidden agendas for any of us on the Planning Commission is not something that I am easily going to let go. If someone has something to say, unless they have proof or something tangible, and they can show me something tangible where I've done something wrong, it's okay. If I haven't done anything wrong, neither has any of the rest of my fellow planning commissioners, I don't feel that it was appropriate for that to be said. And I actually wish now that I had brought it up then and not waited on it until now. What I've seen of Mayor Alex Vargas is nothing but honorable doing. The Planning Commission that serves now and the Planning Commission that has served prior are some of the most honorable people that I have ever had the pleasure to work with. You're all amazing. Everything that we bring to the table makes us what we are, and I'm very proud of the work that we've done. Our planning department is amazing. They're very diligent in everything that they do, and they
try to move everything forward, and I know that they also have a lot of pressure, but I felt that now was the time that I needed to bring this forward. Now, I know that once quorum is set, if enough people apply, I will then very gracefully remove myself from the Planning Commission. I will stay. I have never had any financial interest in the city that is personal. Since after quarantine, my husband and I are barely living hand to mouth. Thank God, I mean, everything is okay, but it has been hard. We don't have any financial benefit in the city. My own community, until recently, 70% of them did not even know that I held this position. The only reason I held this position was to serve. I love doing it. I will do it until I am recused from my position when the time comes, and I will gladly step down for someone else to come and serve and do as good a job as we've all done. And I'm very proud of the work that we've done, and I apologize for taking a lot of your time, and thank you. Thank you, sir.
This is so someone can say it. Thank you for your time here. I'm sorry that you had to experience something like that. None of us should have to deal with anything like that, especially in the city here, who we all report ourselves to conduct ourselves with quorum. And I'm sorry that you've had to sit on that for so long. I'm glad you were able to, burden that, and I hope no one else has to experience that at all either.
I really hope so. I really hope so. Thank you so much.
Yeah, same sentiment, Rula, or Commissioner El-Shanable.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that you went through that, and I commend you on the work that you've done. I know all the time I've served with you, you've been exemplary, and
thank goes to you.
And thank you.
Thank you for your bravery and speaking up. What you said needed to be heard. A lot of us here, do this as a volunteer service, to the community. We have normal jobs that we do outside of here, and come here. It's posted online that we get paid, $25 per meeting. So that's definitely, volunteer service. It's not $25 an hour. It's per meeting. So, and then me growing up in Hawthorne, I wanted to do service and giving back, and studying, planning, so to make the city better. And a lot of us here have similar goals and intentions on making the city better, and that's why we are here, and that's why we continue to make decisions for the community.
I agree with you all, and until you find a replacement, I'll come for the coming few meetings.
Well said, Jason. Like you mentioned, it's not $25 an hour. We have officially been here about 3 hours today.
Yes.
I know everyone here has
That's
family.
much.
Jason's got young children he could be at home with, and yet
Yeah.
we are all still very much so here.
And I
So-
need everyone to know that we do it for no other purpose than to serve. That's the only reason we do it. And I've done it gladly. Director report.
That's a tough one to follow, but it's been a real honor to work with you guys, and I hope that you don't get replaced, but that's not my decision. So the news that we have is that the Hometown Buffet looks like they're going to be bought, and I understand they're in escrow. And if all goes well, we should be seeing something happen there finally. It's been a long time. I have a meeting to set up with the potential buyer to ascertain the plans and see what we can do to help or encourage, in any way we can to do something that's really good for the city there.
Hopefully.
So that's the big news.
Yes.
Awesome. We're
Hopefully
getting another
everything works-
hometown buffet.
Yes. Hopefully everything works out.
Maybe Pupusa House or something.
I know in our previous meeting there was a restructuring for the commission, but I don't see it here. But regardless, I don't think that we should do anything without the presence of Mr. Smith.
Yeah, Chairperson Smith took a fall again, and he did suffer a little bit of an injury. So we didn't anticipate him being here, so we didn't put it on the agenda again. We would, from our side, we'd rather not have that vote until everybody's here.
Yes, of course. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Well, then, one of the longest meetings we've ever had. Meeting adjourned at 8:55.
I don't know if I was supposed to or not supposed to write in this.